Jay Bilas, welcome into the show. It's an honor to steal some of your time here. We are both super grateful to have you on the show. Appreciate you coming on.
Well, grateful to be with you, Noah and Drew. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, so you covered two of Drew's games this past weekend in Portland. Normally how we start the show off is recapping some of his games. So obviously in the last 3.5 years, you've covered more than just two games of Drew, of Gonzaga. So I kind of want you two to dive into just what you both saw. Tough loss to Purdue. Purdue kind of surprised a lot of people. Then a good bounce back win against Xavier. Drew, I know it's your podcast, but out of respect for Jay Bilas, Jay, why don't you take the floor? Tell us what you saw out there against Purdue, against Xavier, and then Drew, you can kind of chime in after.
Well, just from my seat, I thought Gonzaga played well. This, as you guys know better than I do, is a new team. And the expectations of this team are last year's team. You know, that Gonzaga should be last year's team. And it's not the same pieces. It's the same program, and there are some of the same players, but it's a totally different team. And so, you know, from my seat, it's going to take some time for this team to establish what its own identity is. So asking Nolan to be Andrew Nembhard, is unfair. You know, he's going to be really good. And he's going to do a great job for this team, but he's a different type of point guard. And asking Anton to be Holmgren, he's not that, but he's a terrific player. And I thought what happened against Purdue is you're facing a unique talent and a behemoth in Zach Edey. And, I've played against a 7'4" guy before, Ralph Sampson at Virginia. And I did a great job on him. I held him to 36 and neutralized him at just 36. But he was a 3-time National Player of the Year, and you can't simulate 7'4" and talented and skilled and with that kind of size. And what I felt Purdue did, which is what not many teams can do, is they took Gonzaga out of transition and they kept him off the free throw line. And they really made him into a one-on-one team instead of a passing, cutting team. And so I never felt like Purdue was chasing Gonzaga. And most teams usually do that. They usually have to chase them around, and they lose guys. And so look, they're really good. And I think if they played 7 times, Gonzaga, it wouldn't be 4-0. I know that. But I thought it was a great bounce. Like you use the term bounce back. No, I thought it was a great bounce back against Xavier. And when you play the third game in 3 days, and usually in a 3-day tournament, when you're playing the West Coast Conference tournament, whatever, Purdue's playing in the Big Ten tournament, you're not playing unless you win. And it's really hard to play a third game after you lost the second and you can't win the championship anymore. That's a mental hurdle and mental challenge that most people don't really understand. And I thought Gonzaga got back to being Gonzaga. Julian Strawther was great. Hickman was really good. It was just more what you expect from Gonzaga. So I thought that was a great next step to being the type of team that Gonzaga can be, and they're good enough to beat just about anybody. But I really do believe like this team has to be allowed, and it's not like we're not allowing it, but there's a lot of talk out there, and the comparison game from last year's team, the year before. Doesn't do any good because this is a different group. And if they're allowed to evolve and mature, this time last year, we didn't think very highly of Kansas. And, I put out something saying, here are the 8 teams that can win it in the middle of the season. Kansas wasn't in it. And at the end of the year, they had matured into a team that was capable of winning the thing. And I don't discount the probability that Gonzaga will be among those teams at the end of the year.
Yeah, kind of to your point about just us being young and everything. I was so proud of our team in the Xavier game because we were up 10 twice, I think, once early in the first half, then late in the first half, and then out of nowhere, Xavier just took a 10-point lead, and we got down. And whether it's the Tennessee game, which is even though it's an exhibition game, it's still a game. Then the UT game, we kind of just folded and we kind of just let the snowball keep rolling down the hill and just gain more and more momentum. And we finally just said, that's enough, and punched back and really gathered through adversity. I mean, we didn't really hit shots that we usually did, like against Kentucky. Like, it wasn't a pretty game for us. And we answered back to kind of just like finding our character, finding what makes us tick, and knowing that we can do something is what I was most proud of this weekend from this team, because it's something that we haven't shown in the past. And it's something that like you said, we got a bunch of young guys coming into new roles that have to be, they're in the spotlight. They don't have the choice or the luxury of having the patience anymore. So I think us finding that and also responding again is just more building to our character and maturity, and something that, while it does suck to play in a third place game, I think it was more valuable to go through that than not to go through it at this point in the season.
Yeah, and Drew, like, so your point about roles, like, you've been a lead dog for quite a while now, and so you know how hard that is. And look, I was like the fourth leading scorer on a great team when I played, and if I didn't play well, we probably were still going to win. If our best players didn't play well, we weren't winning. And so there's more responsibility. So you've had guys that have stepped up, like Julian last year was an outstanding player, but he wasn't your lead guy. And he was probably your fourth guy. And you know, same thing for Nolan Hickman. You know, he wasn't relied upon last year. He's an important piece and a good player, but those guys are stepping into different roles where they've got to carry more responsibility. And you don't just flip a switch and Mark Few insert somebody in the lineup and say, okay, now you're a lead dog. That takes a little bit of time. And I think people have been around it, understand it. You don't win these things in November. You don't win a championship in November, and you build toward it. And so I agree. I thought it was a great experience for your guys. And, you know, your program has always been competitive spirit has always been kind of the chief thing that I've admired more than anything. I mean, I think I said years ago, like, you know, you guys come across as choir boys, you know, you're polite and you go to class and everything. The game starts and you want to slash somebody across the throat. And I've always admired that, just how competitive, but that's not something that just happens. It's a learned behavior. And I think all your teammates stepping into these new roles, I think they'll get that, and they're getting it now. But I mean, I think they'll get it in a big way as you go forward.
Yeah, I was super excited too, because I mean, obviously you've covered me and you've seen us play a lot. I mean, I think I scored like 8 quick points in the second half, and my body wasn't in it. It was a third game. It was hard, and I just didn't have that fire, you know, passion. Like I wasn't cheering or talking as much as I usually do, which is a lot. And I think it was huge that we saw guys like Julian and Nolan really take that huge leap. And I think that just has to, like, people don't see the value in that, because like just the Michigan State game, it was like, get Drew the ball and get out of his way, you know, and we saw guys take these huge leaps. And that's really what I was so excited about. It's like, yes, everyone is like, we're here, like we're getting there, we're learning, we're getting that competitive spirit. And I think that's huge too for the growth of the team. It was good that I wasn't having one of my best nights, because it forced other people to step up and kind of put them in the fire. And we saw them really grow and take off, which is what we're going to need more of in the future, because obviously teams are going to be so keyed on the flat actions to me and the post ups that I get and everything.
And then Ben Gregg emerged, you know, in the Purdue game, and Xavier. And look, I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've come to one of your games to do one of your games, and we've asked your staff at practice, you know, is Ben going to start playing? And you know, they talked about how good he is and he's coming. But if not for the issues of having to deal with Zach Edey, maybe he doesn't get in the game. And he comes in that game, he played great, and then he came into the Xavier game, knocked a 3 down. He's all over the place, keeping the ball alive. And now you've got another confident big guy that you can bring into the game, and he can really, you know, he gives you a different look. He's different than Anton. He can step away and knock down a 3 and play pick and pop and stretch the floor a little bit. And, you know, he's active and big and strong and athletic. So that was it's not a revelation to you, but it was a revelation to a lot of other people. And it was certainly nice for his confidence level that he goes into those kind of big games and produces.
Drew, you had that moment in the game. The TV picked it up where I think you were looking right at Ben Gregg and you were just like, shoot that bitch. And he was like, oh, okay. And it was an important moment because he started knocking down some shots and was like, at the end of the last 6 minutes of that game, he was scoring. He was doing all of everything, offensively, defensively. Unfortunately, he fouled out, but I'm pretty sure I read your lips correctly. I'm an elite TV lip reader. I'm pretty sure that's what you said.
You hit that one on the money, and look, his shots didn't fall in the first half, and we're like, it's a wide open shot. We moved the ball, it went back to you, and you missed it. But he's a great shooter. He annoys the crap out of me in practice because he's money in practice. And I'm like, I'm tired of seeing you do this to me and not doing it to other people. So it's about time you do it to someone else. And I was like, just shoot the ball. No one cares if you miss it. It's a good shot. And he hit it. He's in his hometown, you know. The place erupted. It gave us that fire. I mean, obviously, like, Purdue played a hell of a game, and we weren't going to make it back in that game. But for him to have that moment there, I think he doesn't look back from this. And it was so vital for our team for him to get that confidence under his belt and that sense of he can do this and he does belong here, because we need him. He gives us our team a different look, a different dynamic, and he just plays with so much heart and just plays so hard. It's refreshing to get, especially like it helps other people get confidence too.
Noah,
Yeah.
are you sure you got the comma right? That Drew didn't say shoot that bitch. He said shoot that bitch.
I hope he didn't degrade him like that. I hope he didn't degrade him like that on national TV. I do have a question for both of you, because you guys gave up 84 points in both those last two games, and over the three games, your defense averaged giving up 82 points a game. Like, how much do both of you think the defense was an impact? I mean, giving up 82 points in a college game is not very much likely for a good defensive team, and you guys obviously are. But like, what needs to be fixed? What'd you both see? Drew from on the court, Jay from in the booth, like that needs to be addressed kind of to correct that, because 82 points or 84 points over three games is a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, if you go back and watch the film, it depends on where the opponent is scoring. So Gonzaga early on in the year has had some turnover issues that have been uncharacteristic of the program. So I think against Texas, they coughed it up 20 times. Kentucky coughed it up 19. It was at least 18 against Purdue. And when you cough the ball up like that, you can't guard that. Like, you can't guard a run out. And the same thing when fouling is part of defense. So if you foul and put them on the free throw line, those are free points you're giving away. So do I think Gonzaga can be better defensively with help side, with rotations? Yes. But do I think it's a long-term problem? No. But I do think that how you run offense, this is a connected game. Like, offense is connected to defense. So if you have a poor offensive possession, you're going to be putting your defense in a bad spot. So most of the time over the last several years, longer, Gonzaga's offense has significantly helped its defense. One, being really efficient. They're making the other team take the ball out of the net, which obviously slows down their advance, and you're not playing in disadvantaged situations. But I think as the offense continues to evolve, the defense will automatically get better. There are certain things that I think Gonzaga could do with rotations, ball pressure, certain things, communication to get their defense better. But I don't think it's this massive problem that is crying out for help.
Yeah, what you said is exactly what we saw. You said it way nicer than Coach did today, but film was not too fun today. Because the stuff we're doing is we're not tagging, or we're tagging too low and giving a guy a wide open three, or we're helping in too much or not helping it at all. It's right now we're so on the extreme, myself included. In that Purdue game, I tagged too low and got caught twice on a three. Then I helped in too much and gave first a wide open three in the corner. Like, it's just stupid things that I'm doing, we're doing as a team, that are just like easy mistakes that we can fix. And it's just kind of like you watch that and you're like, did I really just do that? And obviously, like, you're embarrassed because Coach, he's going to pause it and talk to you for 5 minutes in front of everyone and rip into you. But yeah, I think, like Jay said, we'll figure it out. I mean, the stuff that we're doing, we're giving teams easy points and charity, and it's self-inflicted. So I think we just got to buckle down and focus more. Yeah. But I don't think it's a lasting issue.
That goddamn pause button that coaches have is the worst invention in mankind. I mean, we used to have, so when I played, we had reel-to-reel film. So we had to watch film on, as a projector. And I played for Coach K at Duke, and he had a button where he could run it back. So it went backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. It wasn't just that he could pause it and have an assistant reset it if you're watching clips and all the stuff they do now. So back then, he would run it back. And like, there was one time that I had a loose ball, and if I dove on it, I'd get it. And he was running it back and forth. And there I was reaching for it back and reaching for it back. And he kept going, all right, here's the moment of truth. Is he going to be a good player? Is he going to suck? Is he a man? Is he a wimp? And he kept going back and forth and back and forth. And I'm like, and one of my teammates leaned over and whispered, he can run it back as much as he wants. You're not getting that ball.
That sounds like one of the many, like, no offense, Jay, but like terrible things about, I don't know, not having technology when you played basketball like that. It probably was so hard to watch film for you guys. Like,
well, film took longer because you had to watch the whole thing.
yeah,
and especially there was no, you couldn't clip things together like you can now. I mean, we had videotape, but he liked to watch regular film. And so when I was an assistant there, I used to have to drop the film off to get it developed so we could watch it the next day, all that stuff. But it was just it was a different time. So things took longer. Now it's much more efficient. So if you're going in to watch film, a lot of time, or an assistant has you in to watch film during the day, they've clipped things off, or they send you clips on your iPad that you can watch that have teaching points in them. So it's much more efficient, and it doesn't require as much therapy afterwards with your psychiatrist for getting your ass chewed out and beat up as much as we got beat up.
I do have a quick question for both of you again about that. On the broadcast, Jay, you kept mentioning, you and Dan Schulman, about Drew's conversations with Zach Edey, and you kept saying that he looked like a first baseman chatting up the base runner. And I know that we were all curious, like, what do these two keep having to talk about? Like, are they like, they're coming back to the same conversation or something, like that you had to pause for 15 minutes, the next free throw comes and it's like, all right, we can get back to this convo. Like, Drew, what was going on? What was going on?
Well, at first I was like, I can't believe I actually blocked your shot. I told him, I said, I saw that ball go over my head. I was like, oh shit, here we go. And I was like, I can't not go for it. And I said, thank you for not dunking on me. I appreciated it because I did not want to be on SportsCenter top 10.
Yeah.
I mean, what else were you talking about? Were you asking about big his feet were or something? You guys were jabbering the whole game. It was really funny watching it.
Yeah, then later on, he was like, you want to trade shoes? And I'm like, I mean, I have a big foot, and my foot looks pretty small next to yours. So probably not. And then just talking how he liked Purdue and stuff, how I like Gonzaga. Like, that's how I love to play the game. Because, like, just you're talking, having regular conversations. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm more than willing to talk shit to people because that's fun, too. But he was a really nice guy, and we were just having fun playing the game and just talking about regular stuff. And we're like, man, this game really feels like a March-level game right now, like just how intense it was. And it was just fun to be in that moment and enjoy it and not be so serious about it.
Jay, how do you feel about that, though, with, like, newer generation guys, like this generation of guys saying stuff like that? If you go on TV and you listen to all the old cats, like they'll say like we're soft for liking that, like that back and forth with opponents. Like, how do you feel about that type of dynamic?
Yeah, I'm not very big on guys my age talking about how much tougher it was back in the day because I don't think it's true. One, I think the game's much more difficult now than it's ever been. So the players are better than they've ever been. That doesn't mean that if Michael Jordan or Oscar Robertson or Wilt Chamberlain played now, they wouldn't be the best player. I'm not saying that. But the average player today is so much better than the average player was 30, 40 years ago or longer. It's not even funny. And, guys my age, if the stopwatch had never been invented, they would have said that Mark Spitz swam faster than Michael Phelps. He didn't. He got lapped by the guy. And, things get better over time. And I'm sure my parents' generation thought, my generation was a bunch of wimps. They were running up Omaha Beach and fighting in World War II, and we didn't have to do any of that. So that's just a function of old people bitching and moaning about being old people. I don't, when I played, there was some trash talk, but guys weren't as vocal on the floor as they are now. And we didn't have the Little League handshake line after the game. If you shook somebody's hand after the game, you sought them out to do it. And there's a part of me that thought that was more meaningful. But I'm fine with the Little League handshake line. I think it's kind of silly that you shake 50 hands in a row and think it's a meaningful interaction, but it's a nice thing. And I'm not one of those guys that wants it to go away. But we also didn't know each other as well as you guys do now because I played some AAU basketball, but it was only a couple of national tournaments, and the rest of what I did was regional. So when I went to college, all the top players around the country, we knew of each other, but I didn't know what some of the guys even looked like. I'd never met them before. If a guy played in Washington D.C. and I grew up in Los Angeles, the chances of me playing against him were zero. Now all the top players play against each other from the time they're in seventh grade all the way through high school. So there are relationships there that didn't exist as much when I was playing. So I get, and I don't doubt the competitiveness of today's player or the toughness. I'm not like that. I've never understood questioning that, because you guys, like, even Drew is a big guy. Like, when I played, a big guy's job was you met your assignment at the free throw line, you got in a wrestling match for the low block. And people say, well, how did you guys guard ball screens when you were at school? We didn't have ball screens. Nobody set ball screens when I played. Everybody ran motion offense or flex or something like that. I didn't have to guard a single ball screen in college. I didn't guard a ball screen until I became a pro. And now a big guy not only has to guard in the low post, but they got to run out and guard a ball screen, then get back to the low post. So they got to hedge out and recover and do all these things. And then we go, how did he pick up a foul there? Well, because he had to guard 12 things in one possession. Maybe that's why. People don't understand how much more difficult it is now than it was 30 years ago.
Yeah, and I would say, to your point, like, even like I'm talking, having conversations, doesn't mean I don't want to kick his ass and beat him and wipe the floor with them. Like,
great point.
I think for me, like, talking to people usually gets them out of their intensity and out of their mental focus. And what I try to do is try to break that, because I can have those conversations yet still be locked in. And I think that's a weapon I use to try to get people off their game. Obviously, it didn't work as well as I would have liked. He had a hell of a game as well. But it's fun when you're able to, like, enjoy the moment with people. Like, me and him both wanted to beat each other to a pulp that game, but we were both able to enjoy the competition, the grind in the game, and get the best out of each other. And I think that's what the game's all about. It doesn't need to be, I hate you, like, I hate you, I hate your family. Like, we can enjoy the game together and still play game, want to beat each other, but still be friends at the end of the game too. I don't think it has to be all like a Quentin Tarantino type of game where everyone has to die at the end. We can all enjoy the game.
The first Quentin Tarantino reference.
All right, slightly off topic before we go to break, Jay. I'm very curious on your thoughts. There's a lot of conversation about Gonzaga, West Coast Conference not being competitive enough. Does it hurt them, going into postseason play? Do you think it does? Do you think come tournament time that playing in the WCC has an impact on their postseason success?
Well, no, I think if it does hurt Gonzaga, then I think all of the teams in the power conferences should petition for membership to the West Coast Conference, because Gonzaga has been to 7 straight Sweet 16s. They've been to 2 championship games in the last, 6 years, and they've been number 1 for I don't know how long during that period. And with all the Elite Eights and all that, all the success they've had in the NCAA tournament, name me all the Power 5 teams that have done that with their brutal conference schedules that they talk about. That sort of argument that some people put forth is, well, talk to me when Gonzaga wins the championship. Well, then, okay, then we can't talk about Tennessee or Texas Tech or Purdue or all these other teams that haven't done it either. It's hard to do that. I mean, the Big Ten hasn't won a title since 2000. And so the Pac-12 hasn't done it since what? I mean, it's 97 when Arizona won it, or have they won one since then?
I wasn't alive.
I mean, but that's sort of my point. Is like It's a nonsensical argument. Gonzaga's been knocking on the door for 20 years now, and they've done it consistently year after year after year. And the one thing about the West Coast Conference that you and Drew know that most people don't think about is every road game that Gonzaga plays is a storm the court game. It's always loaded. People are they wait in line to get in. It's a fever pitch game. And that's not true of a lot of the teams in these power conferences when they play. They don't face that. And some of them do, but not that many. And so it's a different animal. I would challenge anyone to switch places with Gonzaga and play their schedule and see how they do. I don't think very many of them would do as well.
I got a great story for you about talking about the lines lined up out the door and stuff. It was actually the COVID year, so there was no fans, but we go down to Pacific to play them, and they're 1-8 in conference. And I mean, they just were awful that year. And we roll in there, and I mean, they're having the game of their life. It's their Super Bowl. And we go into halftime down like 16. And we're looking around like, are we playing Pacific right now? Like, what's going on? And I mean, coach, it might have been probably sounded like WWE in our locker room, the way chairs were getting hit, stuff was getting thrown around. But it's just like, people don't realize that we get everybody's best shot every game. And not saying that that's not the case in these other conferences, because it is, but like, it is hard to do that, especially to get up for games like that sometimes. I hate to admit that, but it's human nature too. And our conference does get a lot of like grad transfers. We're an older conference. We have a lot of guys who come from like Power 5 conferences and stuff. So I think a lot of people like sleep on the WCC. I'm not saying it's the top 5 conference or anything, but I think it gets overly hated because we happen to be in it. And like Jay said, we've had a consistent success for so long.
Yeah.
It must be tough. It must be tough for you guys every once in a while when Fewey's going off, that you're getting screamed at by a person the size of a garden gnome to go out and get rebounds or play tougher. I mean, he's been a friend for a long time, but I think every once in a while I might just burst out laughing. I don't know.
What do you do? You just look down at him and you're like, I'm going to listen to this guy. Like,
I will say he has mastered the art of belittling people. He makes sure we're sitting down and he gets a chair and he hits a little man pose and puts his leg up on the chair, and he's just spreading it out while we're sitting down. He's looking down on us, and he makes his presence felt. He's mastered the art of that, bigger than he appears.
All right. This is fantastic, I got to say. But we do got to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have Jay give a full breakdown on Drew's game, what he thinks Drew can improve upon the rest of this year, and so much more you won't want to miss, all coming up when we come back. All right, welcome back into episode 4 of the Gimme Timmy podcast with Drew Timme and Noah Bono and our special guest, Jay Bilas. Men, it's good to be here with you guys. Before we dive into this next part, Drew, you know the deal.
Hey, man, please subscribe. It helps us sleep better, which, could equate to some more wins. So if you want to see Gonzaga keep winning, hit that subscribe button.
All right, let's start us off for this next segment. Jay, put yourself 6 months from now on the ESPN panel, draft night. Drew Timme gets drafted first round. The camera crew comes over to you guys, and you have to give your 1 to 60 to 90 second spiel on your evaluation of Drew. Take us away.
The first thing I would say, Noah, is winner. I mean, Drew knows how to play and does things that really you can't teach. And he's got a great feel for how to use angles, use his body to get into a defender and then spin off and to set up a move individually. Highly skilled and just a magnificent touch with either hand. And look, I think the thing that most people or most scouts, most observers would say is, not an above the rim athlete. But so what? Like, Luka Doncic is an above the rim athlete. I see Drew as an NBA player that's going to play for a long time. The game has changed and it's become more of a stretch game in the NBA and even in college to a degree, where things are more spread out and you have to operate in space a little bit more, both offensively and defensively. But if there's any player that I've watched over the years that said, I don't care what style you play, he'll figure it out, I would say it's Drew.
Drew, how do you feel about that? I mean, I couldn't agree more. I'm a little biased, but I mean, I think so. I think there's a place for everybody in the league, especially someone with as much skill as you have. And obviously some of the, things that people knock you for, I think are very, can be easily addressed when you're put into especially if you're put into the correct system. But I mean, you can always get better at the things that people say you quote unquote lack.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think people said I would struggle coming out of high school to play college, and I just figured it out. And I think obviously I have to work on continuing to shoot, which I showed at the combine. I can shoot the ball a little bit with some practice and some warm-ups, but also, I got to get better at defending. And those are both things that I agree with. Those are both things that I think the more I just get put in that situation, I'll learn and adapt. I feel like one thing I am good at is adapting and figuring things out, like Jay alluded to. So I think kind of just throwing me in the fire, I'll kind of find my way somehow, some way, and I'll just figure it out.
Jay, can I give you you can disagree with me or maybe further this, but sometimes I think of Drew as maybe a different version of what Draymond Green does, like just the way that Drew can move. Like the more I've watched him this year, like he'll get a rebound and push it 94 feet, make a play, get into the paint, play off two, kick it, Like, I just think like he's great at setting screens on the short roll and then operating out of that. Like, I think that there's a lot of potential, especially for a role like that. Like Draymond Green doesn't get enough credit because he plays with Curry, plays with Clay, but like his impact on that team has been proven year after year to be so impactful. And I don't know, I kind of see Drew could easily I don't know about easily, but eventually work his way into a role like that.
I don't have any doubt about that. There's zero doubt that I have about Drew Timmy's game on the offensive end. I think defense is always going to be a challenge in an NBA setting because of just how supremely athletic so many matchups are, how often they have to switch and guard. So that's an area. Just I think players can improve their athleticism. Now it doesn't mean that you're going to take a guy like me and when I played and work on your athleticism, and all of a sudden I'll be Michael Jordan. That's not the way it works. But I think you can improve your quickness and agility and speed and strength to a greater degree, and put yourself in a position. And part of guarding is knowing when to give space and how much. That's why I always tell young players. I have a basketball camp, and you tell the young guys, look, man, play as much one-on-one as you can. Play one-on-one, that where you have to guard somebody that's quicker, and you're going to have to figure out, how do I stunt? How do I keep in front? How do I do it at my level of athleticism? How do I figure it out that way? And you're not going to do that unless you get reps where you're put in those uncomfortable positions. And I just don't know any other way than playing one-on-one. And guys don't seem to want to play it anymore. At least they don't play it as much. When they're younger, everything's geared toward 5-on-5 AAU ball or whatever. Guys don't even play pickup as much as they used to. If you don't have a uniform and a scoreboard, guys aren't playing like they used to.
God,
but
it's like pulling teeth to get guys.
A little bit, yeah. But they do more individual work. But the individual work is all offensive by yourself with a ball in your hands. And most of basketball is played without the ball in your hands. You might go a 40-minute game, even somebody who scores as much as Drew, and Drew may only have the ball in his hands for less than 5 minutes of a 40-minute game if he plays every minute. And that's a lot of time that you got to do other things other than score or dribble or pass.
Yeah, Jay, I saw a picture of you though. Don't sleep. You were yoked up back in your day. Yoked. That picture, I was like, wait, that's not the same guy.
I knew where the weight room was. Like I was I was a 6'7" center, and we didn't have anybody else that could do it at that time. So I had to play center, and it wasn't my natural spot, and it certainly wasn't the way I was recruited by anybody but Duke. But I had to get a lot stronger, and it might not have been the best thing for my knees, but I did it. But as soon as I got out of college, man, I went back to skinnier Joe. I was not ripped I was.
You were the big homie. I mean, I was just stunned like that. And then I saw you were in that show. Well, you were in a show when you were like 16. I'm like, this guy's been doing it all.
I was quite an actor. So I was on a show called The White Shadow when I was in high school. And that was like the hottest show on television in the late 70s, early 80s. And then after I got out of college, I got a part in a science fiction movie where I played an alien cop and got to fire a gun with it was like this gun that fire shot out of. I never hit anything I shot at. But Dolph Lundgren was the star of the movie, so that was kind of cool to be in that.
Yeah. So there's been this kind of like quotable thing going on in the media, like the return of the big men this year. You got Drew, you got Oscar, you got Hunter Dickinson. I was going through the list. The other two fell out of my brain, but they're all back. And I think it's solely correlated to NIL, the law being passed. I look at it as a positive, but I know that Jay, you've had strong opinions about, these players being compensated fairly at their market value. Like, how do you think now seeing it happen, it's been a good thing or it's been a bad thing? Like, what's your overall take now that it's actually in motion?
It's been a great thing. It's just in its baby steps. I mean, it's a step above zero, but it's nowhere near what the players deserve. Like, I think college athletes deserve their full economic rights. So if the school wants to sign them to a contract, they should be able to sign a contract with the school. They should be able to earn or accept any amount of money that's available to them in the marketplace without restriction. And we're not there yet. But listen to all the Pollyanna complaining the NCAA did, and by that I mean not just the office in Indianapolis, but all the member schools and the ADs and the like, saying, well, this is going to ruin everything and people are going to stop watching, and amateurism is the only thing that makes college sports unique. And that was a lie. You watched Ohio State and Michigan play football on Saturday. It was the most watched game in football history.
Yeah.
Fans don't care how much money the
Yeah.
players make.
No one was thinking about that.
They were not. They don't, they get it. And, to me, it boggles the mind that schools can make, the NCAA can make literally billions of dollars a year and then claim that they don't have enough money for the players. It's never been true. And now you're hearing these stories. I just read something today in some publication that talked about, well, now this is opening up players to exploitation. I'm like, exploitation? No, a player here or there can get hoodwinked by a bad deal. That's possible. Just like if you allow 21-year-olds to consume alcohol, somebody may get a DUI or get arrested for public intoxication, but it's not happening to everybody. And so are we supposed to, is it better just don't let them have any money? That way nobody gets hoodwinked. That makes no sense. Players now, Drew included, are not only benefiting economically from the enterprise, but they're setting themselves up for the future. They are learning a great deal about handling money, about doing business deals, about managing this kind of thing, and doing their other stuff, which they wouldn't have that opportunity until they went pro. And I just never felt like it was the right thing to have an economic blindfold on the players and pretend that the free market didn't exist for them. It does exist, and they should be able to take advantage of it. And I'm glad to some extent they're able to do that now. And I don't see any downside to it. I just don't. And I know some of the coaches don't like it because it's harder for them to keep their rosters together, and they're having to listen to things they never had to worry about before. But I mean, I'm sorry, they're just going to have to get used to it because it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, let me tell you how much I learned about the real world real quick on my first paycheck. I got it and I was so excited. I was like, this is all my money. Like, let's go. Let's go. I didn't know what to do. And then all of a sudden I'm like, no. My mom's like, no, you got to pay your taxes. You got to pay your agent.
Mama Timmy stepped in real quick.
And that check went from this to, and I was like, what? Like, I knew it was a thing, but to actually like it happened to you and like happen to your own money that like you feel like you earned every penny of, it was crazy. And it was a great experience to learn. And now the way I do my deals and go about my business is way different than I initially thought it would be. And even just the time commitments that it takes balancing school, athletics, and like just commercials or whatever deal I'm doing at the time. Like, I've learned so much about life and how to communicate with other people, make hard decisions, turn good things down for better things, and also miss out on opportunities that I thought were bad. So it's forced me to learn and grow up a lot more, I feel like, in college than I would with just a regular education. Don't get me wrong, like, you need a degree, it's a great thing to have, but like, you can't teach this real world experience until you actually like are put in it. And it's just awesome to be able to learn this while still at school and to have people that still like take care of you and are also like you're under their wings. So like this experience for me has been awesome just to learn for like what I need to know down the road, because I didn't know what taxes were. I mean, I knew what they were, but how to do them and file them and how much it costs. Like I still really don't, but like I know enough about. I'm not really making what they say I'm making, so it's pretty cool to know that.
Well, when I was playing, I was on an NCAA committee when I was in college, when I was a college player, and I would raise the issue from time to time in meetings about how unfair I thought it was. And some of the responses I got were, "This is the way it is. If you don't like it, you don't have to play." Or, if you want to make money, go out and get a real job. Well, if I went out and got a real job, I'd have to pay taxes. If I flipped burgers somewhere, bagged groceries, or worked on a construction crew, I still got to pay tax, and it takes time away from school and all these other things. So I just don't understand the difference in it. If you can go out and get a job, then you can go out and do this. And I think all the experiences that you're having and your colleagues are having are net positives, nothing but positive. And plus, for you and Oscar Sheboy and all these other guys that Noah mentioned that are coming back to school, for people like me, because I do believe it's true, I think the best place for a young person to be is in college. But it shouldn't be exclusive to those who want to forego making money. And so you're not only making money and playing, and your school's getting great service out of your services. They're getting great benefit out of your services, but you're getting what everybody says this is about, and you're getting education and a degree. So how is that not a good thing? I just don't understand where the negative is here, and frankly, I don't think I'll ever understand the arguments against it.
Yeah, I know. And let's say NIL was a thing back then. How financially responsible would a young Jay Bilas be?
Oh, I would have been financially responsible. First of all, I would have been a money making machine. I would have like
you would have been stacking the paper.
The amount of flowing hair that I had, plus the super athletic body, it would have been underwear ads, shampoo, product, you name it. So I mean, I would have been making money hand over fist. Now, what I did with it would have been an issue, because I certainly would have bought the fanciest car and driven it all around town with the top down, blaring the stereo. So
don't get mad at me when I ask you this question, but you just mentioned you had that long, nice hair. Drew's got good hair. I pride myself off my hair. Like, the day you started losing it, were you upset? Like, was it like, damn it? Or did you know it was coming? You could prepare for it. Like, I'm nervous. Like, I don't want it to happen to me. I don't.
I knew it was coming. I mean, you obviously see it, kind of retreating, like a French soldier in the war. So when it happened, I mean, yeah, I was aware of it. The major thing was when I realized, all right, this is a total losing battle here. Let's just totally surrender and get rid of it all. Because you see some of these guys my age that'll have nothing up top and they keep some sides. Like, nah, it doesn't work.
The dome.
Yeah,
we just gotta go bald.
Yeah, so I took it all down, and then I actually it happened with Chimik Karnowski when he had that beard working. Somehow I got involved in this challenge of, if Gonzaga makes the Final Four. So their first Final Four was probably 2017. I said, all right, you guys make the Final Four, I'll grow a beard. And then they make the damn Final Four. And so I started growing a beard. I couldn't get at the Karnowski level because my wife wouldn't let me stay in the house if I did. But I actually enjoyed having hair on my head, even though it was the bottom of my head. I enjoyed having hair on my head again. So I've kept the stubble going just to prove that I can grow hair other than out my ears and my nose.
You had something back there to shampoo and condition every once in a while. It's good. I just it's a great read by you. I feel bad for the guys that just hold on to the donut. It's like, I mean, you probably would never do this, but like LeBron does, like, you can tell he does the transplant thing or whatever. It's like he just refuses to be at peace that he's going to be bald one day. Like,
well, at least
it is what it is.
At least the transplant is a legit effort.
Yeah.
If you go comb over, or you decide to, have the sides with nothing up top, it looks like an egg wearing a coat. I was not into that. It just sort of screamed out. Like, I just wanted to totally embrace it.
Yeah.
The only problem I have now, like, it's bald men issues. When I play golf during the summer, sometimes I'll get the golfer tan where, like, below the hat, I've got this great tan. Then you take the hat off, and
you can't golf in the hat.
Yeah, it's like all white. But I have to choose between skin cancer and that. So I gotta. My wife gets on me a little bit about that.
Okay, back to the NIL things. I have like two little small ones for you. I feel like there's a huge hurdle, like mental hurdle, people refuse to do. Like, that they're going to have to do about it being a good thing that college athletes getting paid. How do those people that have that resistance towards it just get the fuck over it? Like, it's a good thing.
Well, I don't think I care anymore what they think. They're not asking what Coach K or Mark Few or Jay Wright, or you name any coach out there, what they're making outside of their contract. What car do they drive? Where'd they get that watch? They're not asking any of that stuff. And it doesn't matter. And the truth is, it really doesn't matter in the NFL, the NBA, or Major League Baseball. Like, people might be interested in what somebody signs for, whether they can get the player they want in the marketplace. But how few people really after a game are going, that guy makes that much money and he couldn't complete that pass? Like, it's just not that big of a deal. And, you know, you hear some of the old time guys say, well, now there's going to be a lot more pressure on these young players that, you know, they come in there and they're getting paid. If they don't produce, they're going to have to listen to all this stuff. I think they'll be okay, you know, because they were listening to it anyway. I mean, I read social media when they were amateurs. And it's not like anybody gave them a break on social media. They were criticizing them just as much. So if you're going to get criticized and you're going to get scrutinized and watched this much, you might as well get paid your value while you're doing it.
I was about to say, it feels a lot. The Twitter hurts a lot less now that I'm making a little bit of money with it than it used to.
That's fantastic. Yeah, how could it pierce your armor? It doesn't even matter. At this point, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah,
well, it never
I mean,
matters.
crap. I mean,
yeah, it never matters what people say, because it, you know, even what some schlep like me says on television, it might seem like it matters, but you know, all that stuff goes away, and all you're left with are whatever accomplishments the player has, and then, you know, people watch the highlights of it. There's nothing on the highlight; they just watch the highlight, and so it's not that all this stuff isn't that big of a deal.
And the thing is, if you're not good and you can't play, you're not going to get paid.
Jay, my last question before we go to break. Just like the direction you see college basketball going, like there's this transfer portal stuff, how players are utilizing it on a year-to-year basis. You know, how much of it is good? How much of it is bad? Like player mobility is now a thing. I think most people look at it, or, you know, 50-50 positive, negative, but like you can say it started with LeBron back in the day and now it's translated into college. Like, where's your take on it that number in the transfer portal gets bigger and bigger every single year?
I don't know whether it's good or bad. I think it comes down to a lot of individual decisions. And some individual decisions are great for those particular individuals. Some you may question, like if the next place is going to be the best fit or if they should stay where they are. You know, some coaches have taken the tack that, you know, no player wants to go through it. At the first sign of adversity, they're out the door, as if, you know, everybody now recruits saying, come to our place where you'll go through adversity. I've never understood that. I think it's based on each person, because people transfer for different reasons. Somebody's not playing enough, or they're just not happy in this environment. It's not the best place for their mental health, or their girlfriend is at another school and they want to leave, or they want to get closer to home. There's no one thing. Some of them leave because their NIL opportunities are better somewhere else. That's fine too. One of the things though that people miss is, you know, there's only been a transfer restriction in 5 sports in NCAA history. Football, men's and women's basketball, hockey, and baseball are the only sports where you had to sit out a year. Every other sport you could transfer and be eligible right away. So how could the NCAA justify that? I mean, it was based upon money, frankly. These were money sports. And the transfer restriction sitting out a year was nothing more than a non-compete provision in an employment contract. So if you want the players to stay, if you want a player to stay, then sign him or her to a contract. And then you'll have some authority over that player. But if they're going to remain unpaid by the school, they should have the right to leave just like any other student. And I've never seen any other student transfer, and they transfer at a higher rate than players do. When regular students transfer, non-athlete students, I should say, when they transfer, nobody tells them, all right, well, you can't play in the band this year because you have to acclimate yourself to the new school. Or I'm sorry, you can't participate in the drama department because you have to take a year and acclimate yourself to your new school. That makes no sense. And the NCAA gave up on it because it was making them look bad in court when they were fighting over money. They were fighting over keeping money out of the players' hands. So we can put some reasonable regulation on it that you have to declare by a certain point. You can't just transfer the day before school starts or things like that to bring some sort of sanity into it. But other than that, I don't have any problem with it at all. And if the grass is not always greener, or if the best thing to do for a player is to stay or to transfer and sit out, then reason with that player and sell it and get the player to agree to it. Otherwise, they should be allowed to do what they want, just like any other student.
Totally agree with that. Like my freshman year coming into Gonzaga, I knew Killian Tilly and Philip Petrusev were ahead of me. I knew that. The odds of me coming in and starting as a freshman right away, we're slim to none. And like, I think it forces coaches and programs to show more transparency along with the players as well. I think this will like get rid of all the shadiness in college basketball, because now you can't really lie, because now you can leave right away. I mean, you get one free one, but like I think it allows people to be more transparent and more honest, and you take away people paying people under the table. Like it's making the game cleaner on the whole. I think all this stuff, while obviously it does have its negatives, like on the whole, it's way more good than it is bad. And I think it's going to change the landscape of recruiting with more honesty and transparency, which is what which is what both parties deserve, because this is life-changing decisions that kids and coaches are making.
Facts. All right. I hope everyone listening is enjoying. These guys are dropping some great nuggets. I'm having a blast. I could go all day, but we do got to take our last break. Coming up, we have a variety of different quick hitters for Jay that'll take us home about some of his predictions on this college basketball season, some of his favorite things, maybe a Coach K story. We got a lot coming up right when we come back. Welcome back into episode 4 of the Gimme Timmy podcast with Drew Timme and Noah Buono. We have Jay Bilas with us here in a home stretch. Before we get back into it, Drew.
Guys, I'm going to say it again. If you wouldn't mind, please hit that subscribe button. It helps me get some better sleep, which could possibly get us some more wins. And it's always a good day when the Zags win for most people in America. Actually, for the people that like Gonzaga, I should say. So thank you, guys.
All right, Jay. This season thus far, what team or what player, who have you seen that you've liked the most or maybe been surprised by the most?
Surprised. I don't know that I was surprised, but I was really impressed by Creighton. When I saw them in Maui. I'd watched them a lot last year and thought they were really good. They had 2 guys hurt in the NCAA tournament and still almost beat Kansas in the second round. They had Ryan Nembhard was out, and then Ryan Kalkbrenner. They led the nation in Ryans, and they were both out. But they're legit. They can really score, really talented. And deep and older. They're really good. I've been surprised at just how good Virginia is. They were coming on at the end of last year, but they've added some new pieces. They've got all 5 starters back, and sometimes that's good news, and sometimes it's bad news. You know, you don't have a great year and all 5 starters come back; it might not be great, but they're legit. And I've been really impressed with the way they've played. And then Texas would be another one that surprised me with just how good they are, that they're the real deal. Their guards are excellent. We probably put too much on them last year with all the quality transfers they had. It took them a while to figure it out, but they figured it out.
God, Drew's having nightmares about Texas.
Hey, man, I got nothing. I can't say nothing but just tip my hat to them, man. They're a hell of a team, and they got a hell of a coach. So, yeah.
They were crazy. Like, why that game specifically against Gonzaga was like, they look like a real contender.
I'm about to say, I might have given him a little extra juice after the year before's performance. So, yeah.
Talk that
they
shit,
were ready
man.
for that game.
Jay, you think you could give us an early season prediction? Like one team you really think is going to hit the Final Four, or maybe even if you think there's, one team far and beyond that could really win the national championship, or are we too early?
Well, you don't got to say us too, by the way.
I won't hold it against you. I wouldn't want to put that much pressure on you. This year is different than the last couple of years. I don't know that there's a team or teams that are head and shoulders above everybody else. I think it's really even. And, this year, just like last year, teams play really well in November and December, and you start thinking they could be unbeatable, that kind of thing, and they can't sustain it. And other teams that don't look as good continue to go in the lab every day and get better. Like we mentioned Kansas last year. I didn't think in December or early January that Kansas had any shot to win the thing. And they come out and win it. So, I think Arizona, UConn, we talked about Purdue and all that. Arkansas is really good. They're just super young, but they're super athletic. And if they get Nick Smith Jr. back, he played a couple of minutes in their last game against Troy. And then San Diego State's pretty good. I don't know if they're Final Four good, but they're Elite Eight good. They played an overtime game with Arkansas that proved that in Maui. So I think there are a bunch of teams that are going to contend. And a lot of it's going to come down to how, do you use January, February to really get better? And then can you stay healthy, be healthy when you get to March?
Yeah, I think this year's really wide open, at least playing a couple of teams and then even just kind of watching games. I feel like that COVID year, everyone kind of knew it was going to be us and Baylor at the end, just because I felt like we were pretty head and shoulders above like kind of the rest of the field. And this year, it's more of like any team can get hot. Like Texas got hot. Like if they play like that, I don't think anybody could beat them the way they played against us. But then vice versa, like Purdue played really well against us, and like I feel like they could have beat most teams. And then the way we played Kentucky, we could probably beat any team the way we played against them. So it's kind of like this thing where I think it makes March really interesting because there is no clear-cut favorite where a team can have a bad game and still win. It's like it really is one game and you're done, and that could really change the landscape of March because it is so wide open this year, I feel like.
Yeah, I like the parity throughout college basketball. There's also a lot of parity in the NBA currently. Jay, I've heard you say before you watch NBA, college, high school, you like to see it all. Like, you think this is the most parity and or / talent that like just basketball on every level has in 2022 heading into 2023?
Yes. This is the game's never been in better shape as far as talent's concerned because the talent is international. You're seeing great players come from everywhere around the world, and you're seeing guys that it looks like they were built to play. When I was playing in college, I don't remember anybody saying, talking about length. You heard about how tall a guy was or how good, how many points, but you didn't talk about length. And now you got these guys. It seems like every time you turn around, you're dealing with some 6'5" guy who's got a 7-foot wingspan, and that's incredibly difficult to deal with when you're dealing with length. Scoring over it, getting passes past it. And now on the college level, the pro level, these guys are all long, superior athletes that are super skilled. And it's just I think it's been the best time I can remember to watch the game. Like people say, oh, the '80s was the best time for basketball, and I go back and watch those games. They're not as exciting as they are now. They're great. Like Jordan was playing all that. I played against them in college, but it's way better now.
It's so good to have you on our side for that. Those arguments would be, you could be arguing with somebody like, well, Jay Bilas agrees with us that this generation is better than the '80s. It's so hard to talk to older people about that. I don't know. It's just from my experience.
Well, I don't know what it is about basketball. I talked with Rex Chapman about this on his show. You never hear this in other sports. Like nobody says, do you think Tom Brady could have put these numbers up if he had to play against the 1960 Green Bay Packers and Ray Nitschke? Like, do you think that Simone Biles would have won a gold medal if Olga Korbut were in the field? Nobody says that crap, but they say it in basketball, and I've never understood it. Like everything in America gets better over time except basketball players. It doesn't make any sense. Like the offenses are more sophisticated, the defenses are more sophisticated, the coaches are better, the players are more athletic. They're the only thing I would say for my era that we would have a chance now is that so many of these teams are younger and we weren't. We were older. Obviously we were younger. We were freshmen. Like my team started all freshmen when I got there. But when we were seniors, we were a bunch of 22-year-olds that had a ton of experience together. Now you're dealing with teams that aren't as experienced together, that aren't as old. So maybe we could be competitive, but that's the only reason. Every other area, we wouldn't have a chance.
Jay, I have a million questions for you, and I'll try to keep them short. But your scale of the amount that you watch the NBA versus you watch college, what is the scale? Equal, one or the other?
It's 10-1 college because I have to cover it. So.
Right.
I'll watch, if I've got a Gonzaga game coming up, I'll watch their last 3 games or so on Synergy. I use the same scouting service that college and NBA teams use. So I'll watch it that, I got the TV on now watching games and all that stuff. So I watch NBA when I can and when I don't have work to do. Just for the pleasure of it, because I enjoy watching it. I watch FIBA basketball because their offenses are so sophisticated and they're more innovative than offenses you see here, frankly. And a lot of NBA teams are taking from it, a lot of college teams. I mean, the stuff Gonzaga is running now is more European than American. And I remember when I first started covering Gonzaga, probably in the late 90s, early 2000s, they ran flex. And then they started running motion, some motion concepts, and then they combined it. I think Few and Leon Rice and Billy Greer used to call it flotion. You know, it was kind of a flex motion type thing. And it's totally different now with all the vertical cuts and second cutter action and random ball screens and drags and all that stuff. It's totally different than it used to be, and more I would say more along the lines of what you would see a European pro team run.
It's a complex offense.
Yeah, for sure.
It's amazing they could run it with so many small minds out there.
Oh, shit.
No comment. Curious, you're talking about how you lock in for broadcasts and stuff, and you're a big music and lyrics guy. So I was kind of curious, what's your pregame juice before a broadcast? Where do you bump in before you get on the set, and you got to deliver some energy to the people watching at home?
I listen to Spotify now, so I have a Spotify playlist that I've downloaded, and it is about as eclectic as you can imagine. I've got rap and hip hop. I've got old school Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin. Got some country on there, and it goes in a lot of different directions. So it basically is whatever comes up on the playlist. And every once in a while, I'll have something that pops up, and I go, "Not in the mood." Next. But I don't like have an anthem that I listen to fire me up. I don't need to get fired up to watch a game. I'm fired up anyway, and I don't got to play. Like, you have to play. I just have to sit there and watch.
Is that playlist shareable?
I think so. I don't know. I don't really know how to do it, but I'm sure I could.
What do you got in there? Like a couple hundred songs, or you keep it short?
Oh, it's more than 1,000, I think. Let me see if I can pull it up here and read off of it. I hope it doesn't start playing.
1,000?
All right.
What would you say, like, new gen, while you're looking for it, new gen rappers or hip hop or just somebody in this new generation that you've been turned on to?
I don't know how much
Roddy
new
Ricch
gen
guy?
there is.
Like,
I got a lot of Jeezy on here.
we know about the Jeezy thing.
We know about, yeah, we know. We see your Twitter with the quotes, man.
I got some.
We were going to ask if there's someone else you got on your radar, a new up and coming guy that you really like, where you might get some quotes from.
I'm probably going to get exposed as not listening to what I should listen to.
No, seriously, you think you ever take the Jeezy thing and you just replace his rap lyrics with like a new guy that you're like, all right, like I'm going to do what I did with Jeezy, but I'm going to do it with so and so.
I could.
Does that
I could.
transformation ever happen?
I have slipped a couple in from Jay-Z and Rick Ross and some others. And then every once in a while, I haven't done this in a while, but every once in a while I would put like a Barry Manilow lyric in there, and I got to go to work to see if anybody noticed. But yeah, I mean, I don't listen only to hip hop. It made it, the Jeezy thing made it sound like I do, but I don't. It's just one thing I like, because when I was in high school, I don't know if it was the first, but it was the first mainstream rap song I ever heard was called Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang. And it was probably 1978 or 1979 when I just got to high school. So my teammates and I listened to that all the time, and we would sing it when we were working out and stuff like that. So I started, and then my teammates in college were big into it. So some of it kind of rubbed off on me. But my son probably has more up-to-date stuff than I do by far.
Yeah, he's probably keeping you hip to this generation.
No, he doesn't share it with me. He just listens to it himself. He's not gonna. He's too cool. He's too cool to hang out with me.
Yeah. In the 70s, though, your playlist was like, I don't know what, Boston, Tom Petty. Like, who are you vibing to back in the day?
Yeah,
What are you even listening to it on?
So back in the 70s, the late 70s, I probably didn't. When I was younger in the early 70s, it was still the Beatles. So I was a huge Beatles fan. They broke up, probably about the time I was in second grade or third grade, whatever. So I listened to a lot of Beatles. My brother really liked it. He's older, so I had some of that. Elton John was really big in the 70s. But you're right. Boston was had a little heyday for a while, and then I got really into Rush, Led Zeppelin, and then I became a kind of Rolling Stones obsessed for quite some time, and that's carried through to now. And then I listened to Pearl Jam, and the Cars were big in the 70s, early 80s, so I listened to all that stuff. But I don't think the 80s was a good period for music, frankly. It's
What's your
much
period?
better now.
Now would you say now?
60s and 70s were far better than the 80s. The 80s was a lot of techno crap, and there was a lot of stuff that you listen to it now going, I can't believe we listened to that. But it's way better. It's way better now.
You a big concert guy? You go to the concert, you turn up?
No, I mean, I went to concerts when I was younger, and the last concert I went to was probably I saw the Stones, and then I had Stones tickets, and COVID knocked it out. I like kind of smaller venue concerts. I saw Grant Hill's wife Tamia in a smaller venue about a year or two ago, and she was awesome. But I don't go to big venue concerts anymore. I probably should, but I don't.
You're Hollywood, man. I don't think you could show up there without a VIP pass, some security guards around you.
I wouldn't want to. That's actually where kind of being a basketball commentator screwed me over, because you sit in the front row of every game. So now if I'm in like the 12th row, I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, I can't see anything here. I'm so spoiled.
The privilege. I'm a book junkie. So I want to get a couple book recommendations for you that you would recommend to me, people listening. Don't matter. Just
not me. I'm not a big book guy.
Drew hates books, but we can get him on board. But yeah, a couple book maybe you give a starter book for Drew, and then like some advanced recs for us avid readers.
The last book I read of a more contemporary nature was called The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. It was about how our society has segregated itself, and it was done not de facto but de jure. That segregation and discriminatory practices are still embedded in law in our country, and it was fascinating. It was empirical, and so it's not necessarily the easiest read, but once you dive into it a little bit, I was fascinated by it. And then I reread a book that I read in college that is still my favorite book of all time. It's called Confederacy of Dunces by John Kennedy O'Toole, and it's been out there a long time, but it's a fabulous book.
What TV show should I get into? I'm a TV show kind of guy, so you got any good recommendations for me?
Yeah, I just finished Yellowstone, or not finished it. I just got into the most recent season of Yellowstone. I don't know why I like that show so much. I mean, it's just
my parents love it.
Just a bunch
of
cowboys.
My parents tell me to watch it too.
There's a bunch of cowboys beating the crap out of each other, but it's really good. I watch that. I watch that every time it comes on, and then I've been watching a lot of these English murder mysteries. My wife and I watched a show called Broadchurch that we really liked, and then I just watched. I've curtailed a lot of this stuff because I'm busy with other things during the season, but I just watched that. I think it was Facing Nolan or Facing Ryan. It was about Nolan Ryan, the Hall of Fame pitcher, and it was awesome.
Oh yeah,
I mean, I loved it. I loved every minute of that thing, and so I would commend that highly.
2 shows. Did you watch? People talk about Ted Lasso a lot, and are you on the House of Dragon train?
I haven't started House of Dragon. I was late to Game of Thrones, and I got into that during the pandemic. My son found out I hadn't seen it. And he's like, what? And he's like, you have to watch this. And
great son.
Yeah. And he said, give it. And I was like, I don't want to watch a bunch of, medieval dragons flying around. I'm not interested in that.
That's what I said. And then I was like, I made the best decision ever.
I blew through that thing in 3 weeks, the whole thing. And I couldn't stop watching it. I was like an addiction for his like crack. But I haven't gotten into House of Dragon yet. I did watch Ted Lasso. I loved season 1. I wasn't as into season 2. I want it to be funny and not poignant. I want to laugh.
That was pretty sad.
Yeah, so I enjoyed that. And then I loved Breaking Bad when I first watched it. And then I watched Better Call Saul, which is almost as good. It's almost as good.
My problem with those shows, like my brother's been trying to get me on Better Call Saul, but like the progression in Breaking Bad took so long to get to the good stuff. Like first 2 seasons of Breaking Bad to me are unbearably slow and just like I want to fall asleep.
You don't like him cooking out in the desert in an RV?
He wasn't really cooking that much. Jay, I do have a tip. not a tip, but a hint. House of Dragons. I might be wrong. People will criticize me, but too much incest, not enough dragons. That's it. That's my critique.
Yeah, incest usually turns me off of a show.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would be more into the dragons part. I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
As a general rule.
The amount of it though that they're portraying is like, all right, enough is enough. All right, enough of
being a Southern man myself, I was like, all right, even I've had enough of this. Let's get to the dragons.
Jay, favorite car you own?
I only own one. My wife owns the other one. I only have one car. I have an Audi Q8. It's bigger than any car I've ever had, which I like because I can fit in it, and it has massage seats. So my wife and I sit in and have a drink just in the garage.
Does it massage while you're driving? Or
yeah.
Wow.
My wife didn't want me to buy it. She's like, you don't need a new car. And I said, what does need have to do with anything I do now? There's nothing I want this. And so I took her on a test drive. We went down to look at it, and I said, press that button on the side, and it started massaging her back. And she goes, I think you should get this.
You don't want another one? Like you only want the Audi? Like I would have expected you to have at least like three in the garage.
No, I don't like paying for. It took me a long time to buy a new car. I drove used cars for a long time, and because I thought, what a waste of money. The car loses a ton of value when you drive it off the lot. But now that I'm a little bit older, and I'm looking at how many years I have left to live. I'm not driving used cars anymore. I'm getting what I want.
I feel that, man. I'm a simple man. I put my money away. One car is good for me. And I got one last question for you. And this one's personal, man. So get ready. What is it going to take for me to get a 94 feet with Jay Bilas? Because I haven't got one yet. And I've been waiting.
Wow.
For the time.
All you have to do
I've
is
been waiting for a 94
available.
feet.
I mean, I've done it,
What?
When I come up there to do a game, if we're there at practice, all Fewy has to do is agree to it. And I'll go.
That's a roadblock.
You were just in Portland. You were just in Portland together. What happened?
We couldn't there was no way for us to get the space to do it because there were games being played all the time. So
all day.
We couldn't fit it in. I mean, we had 32 games on the air during that period. We probably had 200 people in Portland doing all those games. I mean, it was ridiculous how much product there was on the air. But yeah, I'll tell you, you'd have some questions coming at you. We'd have to turn around and do it. I've done it with Gonzaga players before. I think I did one with Rui Hashimura. He did it all in Japanese, and then I
saw that one.
Yeah, we dubbed it in afterwards. Phony answers like who the hell are you? I thought Bill Walton was doing stuff like that. And I thought Rui was a huge missed opportunity for Gonzaga, especially in his early time there when English wasn't his strong suit. I thought there could have been a great TV show that would have been hot on Netflix of the Japanese player recruited by the American coach and living together. And we could have called it Rui and Fewy. It would have been
what
awesome.
Can't you do? You're coming up with bangers too. Yeah.
I don't think that's a lost cause. I think you can revive that somehow.
I think
or start it, not revive it. You can start it somehow. Yeah, it's a fire name.
Yeah, like Rui leaving a message for Mark on the door with a Post-it, and it's too high for Mark to have seen.
Who's gonna? All right, I got one more for you. You've done a lot of traveling. Where and what is the best pizza you've had?
Wow, that's a good one. The best, probably in New York, or actually, there's Detroit. Detroit pizza is really good. Have you ever had Detroit pizza? It's kind of a cross between, kind of thick crust New York and it's kind of Chicago style, and they make it.
Hold on. You said New York. Are you going New York or Detroit?
Well, I said New York, but second would be Detroit. Right. I like Detroit style pizza better than Chicago style.
All right. I get into a lot of debates with people because I'm from New Jersey, whatever, close to New York, and I wholeheartedly believe those are the two best places you can go get pizza. So that's what I recommend. I'm glad you said New York because it's a true statement. You go to the South, Drew. You've never had good pizza.
Hey,
Sorry,
man,
but
as long as they have ranch, not cucumber ranch, not some weird ranch, like as long as they got ranch, I'm gonna like the pizza. So that's all I care about in the
see,
pizza.
that's
Like ranch dressing.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like
see,
ranch with my pizza.
That doesn't enter a pizza conversation. That
no. See
Wait,
that
what?
you get
What?
kicked out of this conversation
yeah,
right
that,
here
I,
because
that's
I mean,
aberrant
it's like
behavior. That's
So you just like
that's
pizza
a
without
severe
like a
behavioral
sauce?
disorder is what that is.
nah, Drew. Like you don't do you. Nah, I mean I know people that do that, but you guys get eliminated from this pizza discussion.
Yeah, that's way beyond. That's beyond even the ridiculous pineapple on pizza discussion. I've never heard somebody talk about ranch with pizza.
Drew, you
Do
look
you
like
like
a guy
ranch
that's-
with your wings?
No, I don't
You're a
like
blue
ranch
cheese
with
guy.
anything. No, I don't like.
You're-
I don't like blue cheese. I don't like sharp cheeses.
What do you
I
dip
don't
in
like
your
blue
wings?
cheese either.
What are you dipping your wings in?
I don't dip it in anything. I just eat them. They've got
What?
they've got like buffalo sauce on them already. What do you have to dip it in something?
Yeah,
for?
like, but it's a good.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
when did you get off the ranch and blue cheese train? Because you clearly
I've never
you got
been on
away
it.
from it.
I've never been on it. I don't like creamy dressings and all that stuff. I'm not into that.
I'm
So
puzzled
do you
by
have
that.
ranch with your salad?
No,
Or
no.
like
Well, that defeats the purpose
Dang.
of the salad.
Yeah, ranch on a salad is weird. I'm with Jay
I
on
like
that.
I
It's
like
weird.
a light Italian type dressing or a very light Caesar. Like I don't like heavy creamy stuff.
all right.
Here's-
Well, now I
here's
feel
what I-
really left out.
This is awesome. All right, well that's all she wrote for episode 4, guys. Jay, I couldn't be more grateful for you coming on. I mean, it's an honor to be able to sit down and talk to you for I don't know. We stole 2 hours of your time, so I appreciate it. Thank you again, Drew. You want to sign us off?
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate you for coming on. And guys, don't remember to subscribe and write a review, man. Good or bad. We like all reviews. We don't hate on them. So if you wouldn't mind to indulge us on that. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and thank you again, Jay. We really appreciate this.
Did Drew just say don't remember to subscribe?
Did I?
He said
Fuck.
don't remember to subscribe. Well, first of all, you should just say
See, we
forget
usually
to
do this-
subscribe. Just tell him to forget to subscribe. It's easier.
I didn't
Oh,
want to
yeah.
say anything because I just Drew.
Damn it. We usually do
All right.
like the scripted stuff I'm the worst with. It's the off the script stuff I'm good with.
That's a
Damn.
wrap, fellas. Thank you.